Good evening, everybody. It's me, Tim Otika, and to everyone on Facebook and YouTube. Since I'm planning to post this video on both sites, on both my accounts. I'm making this video because I am actually wanting to do a video about something that happened 5 years ago from this month in March that I always will treasure for a lifetime. And I think it was when I made a big, brave, and my personal belief, legendary change. You see, I am a kid with autism. And since it's also Autism Awareness Month, I actually really think this will be the best time when I made that change, as well as make a video like this. I'm also a bisexual. I love relationships for people of both genders. And you see, I actually am also a child at heart. Together with all three, I call it the ABC code: autism, bisexual, and a child at heart. That's what I am. I have a lot of nostalgia for the past, from the previous decade before the 2010s, as well as getting into some of the stuff that kids today and youthful people of all ages, from babies, children, teenagers, and young adults in their 20s today, actually get into. Including anyone under 12. Kids of all ages. I like to call it from babies to 20s. But to the point, you see, all my life as a kid with autism, I had behaviors that I worked past. I used to be quite a brat sometimes. I used to be a show-off. Sometimes I used to be discriminative when I was in elementary through middle school. I still had friends and people I believed to be friends. I had my entire family. I had some cool neighbors. But sometimes we didn't always get along because of my behaviors. Sometimes I look back at that stuff, mostly during my main 4 years of high school, which was back almost 4 years ago. Throughout the 4 years before that, I actually had a lot of memories of negative flashbacks when things just went terribly wrong. Even though it didn't happen a lot during my childhood, even at times I thought it did, and sometimes I will really overreact. But the point is, when I got into my teenage years, my behaviors and my beliefs and my actions and thoughts and discriminatory got a little bit pretty much worse during my first 2.5 years of high school. I got very arrogant at the time. And also it was because of what I was watching on TV and how bad I thought the world was and how things were going how my lifestyle was going. Because and also because of entertainment too. I thought entertainment really went downhill by late 2009. If you really look at it, entertainment today, compare it was during the previous decades, you'll understand it did go downhill. In my opinion, I think it really did go downhill as a truth. But the thing is, everything today in the 2010s got too trendy, especially for the youthful stuff, like the kids' networks, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Disney, and so on. I saw how bad the networks were getting in 2009. And so, even though I didn't take it as seriously back then, because I thought I was also getting a little old for those networks, but I saw something change with kids growing into this generation, the 2010s. When I actually saw that kids were getting into more trouble today, society was just going downhill and everything like that, and the economy was getting bad at the time in 2009, mid to late 2009, especially with my own immediate family. I actually just started getting a little bit more negative, very more discriminative, getting more. Especially because I thought, since I was getting older, I thought I would watch more adult television, such as South Park, and the reality shows like Jersey Shore, and so on and so forth. At the time, I believe that was the only thing that was on. For me, shows like those, including Cops and Jail, its counter TV show, I looked on TV for different hours after hours, and since TV and internet was pretty much all I had at the time, radio with music today in the 2009 was just horrible. And still to this day, even though there is some more music that's better now, everything's just about trends. But the point is, when 2009 came along and I thought I was getting older, I wanted to keep up with the latest fad like everyone else and not be a lame-o like people in this generation see. When I saw that happening, it was really hard for me to be hip and cool. Not to mention that there were also some things I wanted to accomplish during my main 4 years of high school that I never did. I kept asking politely, but then fought for the bigger gen ed classes that my teachers said I wasn't ready for yet. The after school activities that I thought I wasn't ready for, but then wanted to give a try. No one would let me because of my behaviors that resulted from the shows I was watching, which was South Park pretty much all the time, and other TV shows that were for adults that were very bad influencing to most people. And TV and internet was pretty much all I had. The internet was just out of control with a lot of negative stuff as well in the media. The first 2.5 years of high school, I actually had a lot of bad problems. I caused a lot of scenes that could have got me into serious trouble at school. I had a lot of rejection. People bullied me a lot more than they did in the past beforehand. I got into trouble for stupid reasons, sometimes for no reason, and sometimes I would still get blamed for it even though it wasn't my fault or I didn't even do anything. And I got a lot more, and I would be nasty to my guests when I was in Miss C's class, in Mrs. Franklin's class, when I was in my first 2.5 years of high school. And during those 2.5 years, while things were happening with my family, like my parents almost went through a divorce. Sometimes my family and I had some health issues. My friendships with my only friends were pretty much at stake. I couldn't develop friendships with other people. And it was just a pain in the butt. I had things about me during that time period that made me feel terrible, that made me feel miserable, that made me cry even sometimes. And those first 2.5 years of high school was just stuff that I thought was never going to get by. And it felt like 5 or 10 years in the 2010s. And, it just felt like people, especially because people I felt were too hard on me, people were out to get me, I thought. The fact that my autism kept me, that made me behave in certain ways that people wouldn't recognize to be good. Things that made me stand out from the crowd that actually, in a bad way, that kept me from having opportunities and successful pleasures. My bisexuality. People in politics and religion did not want to tolerate for love relationships. And so people, including my closest friends, avoided me on. Sometimes childhood nostalgia, people thought I was acting a bit too childish that I only had once in a while during my, and I didn't really have childhood nostalgia during my first 2.5 years of high school. Because I was thinking of getting older. And sometimes I will blame other people for some things that actually were my fault. And when I actually saw the stuff that was on South Park, I thought it to be true since it was an adult cartoon. And the fact of the matter is, the thing I used to discriminate during the time against special needs people, sometimes against the LGBT community, and sometimes for people who love to hold on to their past. And sometimes the joke that actually involves race, that involves like sometimes even racism even. And sometimes the jokes and the stuff that went on TV shows that like on Comedy Central and Spike TV and Fox. And the fact that I thought, and not to mention the fact that kids were watching that stuff and getting bad influences on them, it was causing everyone to behave, and I thought it to be true, and I used to say and do things that offended people and made me behave in ways that got me in a lot of trouble at school and at home. Sometimes every once in a while even with the law. But in the minor ways, though. And my parents were always fighting all the time. My sister was always being a brat. I was having a lot of special needs, behavioral issues, and some of it was actually becoming from the stuff that I was watching and the stuff that I believed to be true, and the stuff that was going on with my friends and family. And you see, there are questions that I keep asking myself from those times. Why would I be nasty to people like when I actually said from the beginning when I first started in high school that I wanted to help other people and do good and be kind and make this world a better place? Why would I be such a nasty person if when Michael Jackson said if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself in the mirror and make a change? Why would I disagree with the laws that were out, the misdemeanor laws and white-collar laws that were around for a good reason, but even though there are parts of it that I do think should be changed because some things I think are taken too seriously. Not to end the beliefs in politics and religion that really pissed me off, that was also put on TV like South Park and adult reality TV shows and Comedy Central shows that went far over the top, that just blew out of proportions. Why would I be nasty to people who didn't like the same things I liked? And why would people, even who do, most people agree with me, let it stand by? And how would I why would I be nasty to them when I just could have encouraged them to help me with this stuff in a more positive way? There are things that we have no control over, but it was just stuff that made me more of a crazy, bratty special needs person during my first 2.5 years of high school when I was in my early teenage years. I had thought, why would I have terrible thoughts of whenever my closest friends, my best friends, will not been so nice to me. Why would I even think about doing things that will probably offend them when they actually were not, when really they were just special needs people that didn't know any better on that subject. And why would I even think about saying or doing something horrible in general? Sometimes shows like South Park are not good for your kids to watch, even if they are in their teens or 20s. And that's what I was obsessed with South Park. And that's what pretty much held me back. And what caused me to be such a crazily behaviored dingus. Especially, why would I actually... And I lacked a lot of the things that I was good at that I wanted to develop as talents that made me feel, with the shows I was watching, that made me lie on my bed in misery, that made me lose my abilities to do certain things. And I was very bad at it for a while, and I was spoiled, acting all like a spoiled bigot when people were trying to teach me something to help do things better. This is not something that a normal person would do, even if you do have special needs. And you see, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was better than everyone else because I was just being an arrogant asshole. And you see, it went from my freshman year of high school through my sophomore year up to the second half of my junior year. When I started my junior year of high school, everything was just going to be the same. Nothing to do. Everyone, I thought my hometown Southampton was at war against me. Sometimes I feel that way sometimes nowadays, but all my friends were having all these successful pleasures, and I was getting nothing. I was just nothing but an outcast. And it got bigger and bigger. More bullying, more rejection, more getting into trouble. And it just caused me to misbehave even more. Especially with looking out the world, how worse it was getting. And I was still trying to figure out from that time on what was causing me to behave that way, not to mention what was causing the world to be this way. I thought the 2010s was cursed. And I thought this was going to be the last days of Earth. I was praying for the world to end. Hopefully but why would I do that if this world really is still partial, sometimes even a good place to live in, a wonderful place to live in? And I will admit, sometimes some parts of the world have lightened up since the past. But in my junior year of high school, during 2011, it was the beginning of the year, I started to become more. I used to misbehave. I used to be hyperactively. I wanted to get violent sometimes. I wanted to do this and that was gonna probably not tear me. That was gonna not only affect me, but so many other people, and so on. And I got into trouble with this by saying I was going to. And by the holiday season of 2011, I actually realized with my bigoted self, my misbehaved butt-hurt personality, out of all of that made me feel miserable for my first 2.5 years of high school, that felt more like 5 or 10 years. I actually realized that my heart was actually beating and opening up, and my kind sign was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I actually felt like, because that same night I was watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas on ABC Family. It's 25 Days of Christmas. And I was thinking, my compassion, my love, and so on and so forth. Now, during my junior year of high school, I watched also a little bit of anime and action cartoon on Saturday mornings as well, but not a lot. Not even the shows that I did like every Saturday, especially every Saturday. I mostly watched all of South Park, just like my rest of my first 2.5 years of high school. But I realized by the holiday season of 2011, that's what was affecting me. And 2011, after the holidays of 2011, and just like how I missed the holiday season, especially during my first 2.5 years of high school when I felt miserable every time the holiday season ended, I went through the rest of winter of 2012, which was the next upcoming year for the second half of my junior year of high school, that South Park nor anything else that I was watching on TV or online was the trustworthy stuff that I was hoping what it was. I thought it wasn't the honest, hardworking stuff the hardworking, honest stuff that I was viewing, that I was looking up, that I was researching, that I was watching. You see, during my first 2.5 years of high school, I looked back at the negative parts of my past and all the crap that was going on in the present time during my high school first 2.5 years of high school, and people have said and done terrible things to me. People have took my papers and drew inappropriate stuff on them. People called me names, got me into trouble with my teachers. That's things I didn't even do. People like my teacher will say I was never going to graduate, and my doctor sometimes said I was just going to be a couch potato for the rest of my life. My parents wouldn't trust me on anything to do. All the things that I want to do when it came to entertainment, my dream career was never going to happen. The things about me being a hero was too much responsibility and too much requirements and stuff like that, and knowledge, and some things that involved knowledge, which was another thing, was not part of my education. I probably would never get anywhere with that involved like serious knowledge like math and science and all that stuff, because I have a thing for entertainment. I always dreamt about being in entertainment. I always wanted to like have several parts in entertainment, like, and making one big dream career at Timotika Television with a fun universe amusement park around it. Not to mention, I also love to be a hero and do hero work, like save the day, stop bad stuff from happening, and not to mention, I also love to help other people with special needs, help the LGBT community because I am a bisexual, and help people who are starving in other countries, hunger, poverty, people are dying with cancer and AIDS, widows and widowers and orphans, animals and children that were being abused, and all that stuff. And also I want to increase my education to a high knowledge and share my knowledge and wisdom with everybody. Not to mention, I have an interest for politics. I want to find a way to get politics to make things fair, always make things fair for everyone. And religion, I always had a thing for reading the Bible and then preach to everyone that religion can be whatever you believe it to be. We don't know what God is really like. The Bible isn't always accurate. We can't always assume that it was written by God or it was all inspired by God. These are just people's beliefs in the Bible, and some of these are just people's beliefs in the Bible. Some of it could have been written by God and inspired by God, but we can't always assume that. Like, I don't think God's going to send us to hell just for being LGBT or homosexual, including homosexual. Not to mention, I don't think he's going to... I don't think I don't think he had I don't think he has a desire to send people to hell for even the sins of gluttony or lying. Some sins I believe are worse than others, and I want everyone, including, to believe that God loves everyone. You see, and everyone to believe in God and the Lord Jesus Christ and all the other religious figures, and to use their imagination to believe that certain things I believe that mostly children will believe is true. And I take all those things, I take it into one category, and I consider it as doing good. And that's what I want to do. I want to do good. And you see, the thing is, like, it was hard for me to do good during my first 2.5 years of high school with all that misery that I was going through. And throughout the rest of the winter of 2012, I realized that's not who I want to be. That brat who's just obsessed with South Park, who just tries to fit in with the crowd by being nasty and all that stuff and everything like that. And I knew the way how people were living was not right and everything like that. And you see, South Park was a very bad influence to me. And I realized, by looking back in the past, especially because I had an incident that got me into serious trouble, and after, like, my uncle died and I went to his funeral, I also wanted to help people who are at war too, the soldiers from different countries. And you see, just seeing all this happening, I realized the nasty person I was being is not what I wanted to be. And I realized that, oh my God, I'm actually hurting other people by doing this. I'm emotionally hurting other people and so on. And it's like, I know it was, and I realized that most of it, because there was nothing else on TV, it was coming from South Park and the adult programming that I was watching. And you see, I actually realized that this is not something that's good for me, good for you, good for anyone in particular. Like, but in general, like, the thing is, people being nasty to me and stuff like that, the way I was treated by certain groups of people, especially during my first 2.5 years of high school, like, other things, like, said that I got into fights with people, in arguments with people in public, in school, around the neighborhood, here at home. Another person said that I was chaff and that the wind was going to blow me away and all stuff. And just sitting here throughout my whole first 2.5 years of high school, listening to all this, it's like, you people obviously don't want me here. And I was just thinking, why do I have to listen to that? Like, I think some of it was also coming from my behavior as well. And it's not going to get any better just by keep acting this way. If I keep acting this way, and it's going to make things worse. And sometimes, with all the stuff that I was watching on TV, especially when March 2012 came along, I realized that this was not what I wanted to be. This is not who I wanted to be. This is not the stuff that I should be watching if I want good influence, if I want to be happy with my life and make things better. I think this is just going to make me miserable. When I realized that I was hurting other people throughout my first 2.5 years of high school, especially the way, with all the flashbacks I had throughout that time, of looking back at my childhood past, the negative parts of it and not the positive parts of it. And I'm talking about the negative parts of it because negative parts of it actually made me lose friendships and people wanting to be around me. And it got worse during my 2.5 years of high school, first 2.5 years of high school, because I was just watching stuff that made me misbehave terribly. When I realized that from March 2012, it made it impossible for me to continue watching South Park. I was thinking about ending my South Park stage that I thought was going to be eternal. My voice in my head told me, you're not thinking about ending your South Park stage, are you? And I said no. And at the time, I thought I was telling the truth because there was nothing else on TV for me to watch. I just had a sudden realization in March 2012 that I just needed to get away from that show. I just had to do it, or else things in my life were just not going to get any better for me. And the worst my behaviors came at the time, I actually knew I probably would have been in prison. I probably would have been like had a police record if I didn't stop watching South Park. So I just had a sudden realization that I needed to get away from that show. I needed to stop, or else things were not going to get better for me. And so then I stopped watching it. And I stopped watching adult programming, especially because the TV show was getting more offensive itself. And I said, and I even wanted to boycott Comedy Central Studios and Viacom just to take South Park off the air for good. But I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I just stopped watching it, and I said, just like how Eric Cartman says, screw South Park and adult programming, I am going back to the kids' networks. And so I did, but it was just crappy. Like, it was just, the only shows I could probably relate to a little bit was iCarly and Tough Puppy on Nickelodeon, and some episodes of Modern SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents, and then all the rest of the shows were just too trendy crap, and just copied shows that weren't really too good to begin with. Even if it was a good show to some people, it wasn't. Same thing with a few shows on Cartoon Network as well. Some of it was too trendy. Even the good shows at the time I thought were like Adventure Time and Gumball and Regular Show, I thought was just too trendy and just too bizarre and bland. And the corny sitcoms on Disney Channel, and no more Saturday morning kids cartoons, except for CW4Kids, which were repeats of the 4Kids Entertainment Channel. But when I stopped watching South Park, I watched a lot more of the 4 Saturday morning cartoons that were left on CW4Kids, the anime and action cartoon shows, and I loved it, including Sonic X. I love Sonic the Hedgehog, and I love Mario too. And I watched some of the other stuff like Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And G Gundam and so on and so forth. I even watched a little bit of. I even watched some took lessons of singing and dancing and drawing online, and I'm actually started teaching myself a little bit more, and I got better and better as time went on. And I watched also some TNA Impact and WWE wrestling. I got into a little bit more into sports like baseball, football, basketball, volleyball, and soccer, and so on and so forth. And I watched some educational shows that had to do with places around the world, like Singapore, Hawaii, Africa, Japan. And you know what else too? I even had my memories came back to me. I looked back at my childhood music and dances that I loved. I listened to it and I was partying all the time with it. Looked back at some of the movies that I watched, like Matilda, Stuart Little, and Inspector Gadget, and some of the older movies like Hoodwinked, Toy Story. And I even thought of, when I spoke to my friend David Skellinger on the phone, I even said, didn't Nickelodeon used to have the older SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents episodes? And what about Jimmy Neutron? What happened to that show? And what happened to Rocket Power and Rugrats and Dexter and all that stuff from Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney? What happened to Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, all that other stuff? David told me they all went to crap. The networks are just crap now. And I agreed with him. A lot of people agree with me when I talked to them. I think that's what caused kids today to watch the adult shows, because there's a lot of kids today thought most of the kid shows today were stupid. And there was not enough on the networks in a way to entertain these kids. So the parents just let the kids watch the adult programming, and I think that was because also they had trouble with the economy and work and school as well. And that's just what caused kids to get into trouble and caused our law enforcement to get tougher and make the laws stricter and take them more seriously than they actually were, and so on and so forth. And I think this world is going downhill because of what's cool, like entertainment today is like, especially with the music, the celebrities with all the stuff with drugs and sex and alcohol and it's more abominable than it was in the past. Even in the 80s and 70s, is when I looked back at it. And I think it was like, we need to find a way to get the kids network, to get the kids networks to bring back the old shows and make better new shows for this generation. So everyone could be entertained by these kids networks, even though they're mostly meant for kids because they're kids networks. And bring back Saturday morning cartoons, make Comedy Central better, get rid of all these adult mediocre reality TV shows, and just make it all better. And I was thinking about petitioning. I looked up videos like bring back old Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network sucks now, rip old school Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and Disney, and all that other stuff. And I was like, I'm not alone in this. I'm glad. And I even signed petitions since 2012. And I actually wanted to protest and boycott, write letters, call, and contact them. Maybe they'll understand and bring back the shows. And they brought back the Splat, which is, well, at the time it was 90s or all that, which I was so happy. And I was like crying with joy because my old childhood shows were coming back. I said the same thing when I saw Boomerang too. And the Disney Channel block that was on ABC Family. I was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. This is great. This is great. Like we get to see our old childhood TV shows again. Now all we have to do is get something like that, as well as make better new and more creative TV shows and entertainment for the kids today. And make better music just like it was in the 90s and 2000s and the 80s and 70s and earlier as well. For this generation, the 2010s, and not everything so digitized and trendy and up to date and fat, capturing what the latest fad is. And I think that's what the problem is. We also can't keep these people in entertainment. We have to get them to understand that don't just focus on the money. Focus on the entertainment. Focus on the quality. As well, we also we can't keep politicians like our current president, Donald Trump, in office, nor his vice president, or people like Ted Cruz who want to get rid of the gay LGBT community people, and so on. We can't let religion get the best of us when we're preaching our gospels. We can't let what's something that says that's written down be something that's going to affect us for life, that's going to affect us. We don't even know if God's even male or female. Those of you who are religious, we don't know if the Bible is completely true or not. We don't know how we're going to figure things out for our politics, for our country and other nations. We don't know how this world, we still need to find ways to help people in need, to help people, whether it's special needs, LGBT, people in poverty, people who are starving in other countries, at war, poor, cold, people who are dying of diseases like cancer and AIDS. We need to find a way to fix it and pretend, and we can't keep just sitting here and watching bad things happen. We need to find a way to cure mental illness, to cure these diseases and everything like that. We are the future, people. We need to save the environment too. We are the future. Wake up, America and the rest of the world. Please give me encouragement for this video. And we can't keep our own beliefs and take it out on other people. That will probably result to like people hurting themselves and others. We need to be courteous. We need to be kind and love one another. That's how God created us. That's more important than even the Ten Commandments itself. We need to be proud of those who accomplish and achieve things. We need to love one another. We need to be kind. We need to share. We need to help other people and accept people for who they are and forgive one another for anything we do wrong. We don't have to live in a bigoted and dark world. world full of hypocritical bigotry and rebellions, we can resist. We can resist, and we could make this world a better place, and for eternity and beyond. We can keep the world from ending in the future. We can make sure everything is fair for one another, including health issues. We could probably make medicines if we can, if you're scientists, so people can live to like the hundreds of thousands of years even as time goes on. We are the future, people. We can keep entertainment in just good conditions. To tell you the truth, as much as technology today is cool, we don't always need our technology. We need to go out and exercise. We need to eat healthy. You can still eat fast food and junk food and soda once in a while, but not all the time. But most of the time but we also need to get out and get active. We need to encourage people to pursue their hopes and their dreams. We can do whatever we set our minds to. And I've been thinking this way since 2012 because I, Timotika, love everyone on this earth. And I loved everyone on this earth since the day I was born. And even though at times when I said, I hate you, when I was a little kid and growing up all these years, I never really allowed myself to hate anyone for the truth. I always loved everyone. And that's what we need to do. So, I actually am glad, and now I'm much happier nowadays than I was back then. Things are different today than they were back 5 years ago and beforehand. And I'm glad I made that big change because I, Timotika, am now having successful opportunities. Like, I'm going to Maryhaven to help myself get a job. I'm looking into going to college and stuff like that. I'm looking into going to trade school and working towards my dream career, which I had since 2012, even Timotika Television. The network, the Dream TV network that was going to be like all the other family-oriented and kids networks. It's going to be a blast, people. I'll have all this type of entertainment set up for you when that time comes. But I'm glad I've got to post this video. Because now I also got the kids in the summer program that I worked at Star because they never used to like me during my first 2.5 years of high school, but since 2012, they loved me. I became more entertaining, more loving, more caring, and I actually wasn't as miserable everywhere I went. I was never miserable after that. Well, I was sometimes upset about things, and sometimes once in a while partially miserable, but not all the time. We need to make this world a wonderful, caring, safe, better, and awesome place. Amen. Yes, we need, as God created us, we're all God's children. And God loves you no matter what. God makes you special. He forgives you for what you did and accepts you for who you are, regardless of what gender, race, nationality, culture, religion, wealth, sexual orientation, anything. Special needs, doesn't matter. Hopefully, I believe we're all going to go to heaven. Only the worst people go to hell, such as murderers and rapists and thieves and all that other stuff. Not people just because that are like misdemeanor or medium-sized offenses to Lord our God, no matter the worst of crimes and the worst of sins. God's grace is for everyone. He can forgive you even for the worst of things too. So don't always believe that you're going to go to hell. Say a prayer. Have grace. Care for one another, and you will go to heaven. Amen.